Maurene Comey, who prosecuted Ghislaine Maxwell and who was prosecuting Jeffrey Epstein, until he turned up dead in a jail cell. Maurene Comey just sued Pam Bondi, the Department of Justice, and the Office of the Presidency for unlawfully and unconstitutionally firing her. Let's talk about that, because justice matters. Hey all, Glenn Kirshner here. So friends, Ghislaine Maxwell's prosecutor, Maurene Comey, yes, daughter of Donald Trump's avowed enemy, former FBI Director James Comey, Maurene Comey knows where the Epstein and Maxwell bodies are buried, figuratively speaking. Maurene Comey was fired from the Department of Justice. Now follow the bouncing ball of corruption here. She was fired from the Department of Justice just days before Donald Trump's former criminal defense attorney, Todd Blanche, announced that he would be the one who would sit down with, and now we know, do favors for, convicted sex trafficker Ghislaine Maxwell. Just days before that announcement, DOJ fired the lead prosecutor in the Maxwell case, Maurene Comey. Friends, these people are so transparent and so corrupt. Let's start with the new reporting. This from the New York Times. Headline, fired prosecutor challenges Trump's claims to sweeping power in lawsuit. And that article begins, Maurene Comey, a federal prosecutor who handled criminal cases against Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, is contesting her abrupt July firing in a lawsuit that challenges Donald Trump's claim of sweeping presidential power. Ms. Comey, whose father, James Comey, is former FBI director, says in the lawsuit filed on Monday that she was never given a reason for her dismissal. She contends that no plausible explanation exists other than that she is the daughter of one of the president's best-known adversaries or her perceived political affiliations. Ms. Comey is among many federal prosecutors and Justice Department officials who have been fired in President Trump's second term with no reason given beyond Article 2 of the Constitution, which broadly describes the president's powers. Some have challenged their dismissals before administrative judges. Others have sued in federal court. Ms. Comey's lawsuit, filed in federal court in Manhattan, names as defendants the Office of the President, the Justice Department, Attorney General Pam Bondi, and others, and calls her firing from the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York illegal. Ms. Comey, a 10-year veteran who was among the most highly regarded trial lawyers in the Manhattan prosecutor's office, was fired as the White House sought to quell frustration from its base about its reluctance to release files related to Mr. Epstein, the disgraced financier. Mr. Epstein turned up dead in a federal jail cell in 2019 while awaiting trial on sex trafficking charges. His associate, Ms. Maxwell, was convicted of sex trafficking a minor and was sentenced to 20 years in prison. She, Ms. Comey, personally handled 11 trials and obtained more than 200 convictions, the lawsuit says. She served as the co-chief of a unit that prosecutes violent and organized crime, and later of the unit that pursues public corruption offenses. In the second role, she supervised the prosecution of Robert Menendez, the the former Democratic senator from New Jersey, on bribery charges. He was convicted and is serving an 11-year sentence. And now, friends, let's turn to Maurene Comey's lawsuit. I'm not going to read the whole opening salvo. It spans about 5 pages, but this will give you just a little flavor of what Ms. Comey put in this lawsuit against Pam Bondi, DOJ, the Office of the Presidency, and others. Complaint, preliminary statement. Plaintiff Maurene Comey was an exemplary, dedicated, and highly decorated public servant who spent nearly 10 years prosecuting crime and corruption without fear or favor as an assistant United States attorney for the Southern District of New York. During Ms. Comey's tenure, acting in accord with Department of Justice policy and pursuant to direction from Department of Justice and United States Attorney's Office leaders, she helped protect the American public by securing hundreds of criminal convictions and participating in dozens of complex cases, including prosecutions of homicides, racketeering, and public corruption. Based on her outstanding record, she was assigned to prosecute high-profile defendants, including Sean Diddy Combs, Robert Hayden, Jeffrey Epstein, and Ghislaine Maxwell. In recognition of her work, the Department of Justice repeatedly promoted and honored Ms. Comey. Despite her exemplary performance, Ms. Comey was abruptly fired on July 16, 2025, the day after the U.S. Attorney's Office had asked her to take the lead on a major public corruption case, and just 3 months after her latest receipt of an outstanding review. Defendants did not identify any cause or provide Ms. Comey any due process for her removal. She simply received an email with an attachment stating that she was being terminated pursuant to Article 2 of the United States Constitution and the laws of the United States. Ms. Comey's termination, without cause, without advance notice, and without any opportunity to contest it, was unlawful and unconstitutional. In addition to her fundamental constitutional rights, Ms. Comey had statutory protections under the Civil Service Reform Act, the CSRA, that governed how and why she could be terminated, including specific prohibitions against termination for discriminatory reasons such as political affiliation. Her termination violated every one of those protections. Defendants have not provided any explanation whatsoever for terminating Ms. Comey. In truth, there is no legitimate explanation. Rather, defendants fired Ms. Comey solely or substantially because her father is former FBI Director James Comey, or because of her perceived political affiliation and beliefs, or both. The politically motivated termination of Ms. Comey, ostensibly under Article 2 of the Constitution, upends bedrock principles of our democracy and justice system. Assistant U.S. attorneys like Ms. Comey must do their jobs without fearing or favoring any political party or perspective, guided solely by the law, the facts, and the pursuit of justice. Congress recognized this essential proposition and, pursuant to its Article 1 powers, enacted the CSRA to place guardrails on the removal of AUSAs and other federal employees and ensure continuity and impartiality in government service. The executive branch cannot use Article 2 to overrule Congress and remove career civil servants for perceived disloyalty. Such an act violates the Constitution's fundamental separation of powers. It also violates the Bill of Rights, depriving Ms. Comey of protection under the First and Fifth Amendments. Okay, friends, some takeaways? Consider this. For the first 6 months of Trump's second term, Maurene Comey continued to work as a federal prosecutor, trying high-profile cases, and even being assigned as the lead prosecutor to a major public corruption case just one day before she was fired. So what changed? Well, let's look at the timing. Maurene Comey, the person who knew and who knows all about Epstein's and Maxwell's crimes, Maurene Comey, who knows exactly what's in the Epstein files, was fired on July 16th. And just 6 days later, what does Donald Trump's former criminal defense attorney, now his deputy attorney general, post? Justice demands courage. For the first time, the Department of Justice is reaching out to Ghislaine Maxwell to ask, what do you know? At Pam Bondi's direction, I've contacted her counsel. I intend to meet with her soon. No one is above the law, and no lead is off limits. Friends, take it from this old prosecutor. The only person who should have ever sat down with and questioned Ghislaine Maxwell was the lead prosecutor in the Maxwell case, Maurene Comey. Because Miss Comey would instantly know if Maxwell started telling a bunch of lies, because Comey knows what's in the Epstein files, and because Comey successfully prosecuted to convictions Ghislaine Maxwell. So, of course, they fired her. And then Todd Blanche met with Maxwell and let her lie and lie and lie, telling him, you can read the transcripts, she did nothing wrong. Jeffrey Epstein did nothing wrong. The victims are liars. The jury wrongfully convicted her. And Todd Blanche didn't confront her with the evidence in the case. No, he rewarded her for telling those lies by having her transferred to a cushy club fed. So where does that leave things? Well, if Maurene Comey comes out and begins revealing what's in the Epstein files and exposing how Ghislaine Maxwell told nothing but lies to Todd Blanche, what will Trump and company say? She's a disgruntled employee. She is not to be believed. Now, I personally don't think that dog will hunt, and I sure hope that maybe as part of the litigation in this new lawsuit that she just filed, Maurene Comey will find herself in a position to begin sharing with the American people what's in the Epstein files. Because justice matters. Friends, as always, please stay safe, please stay tuned, and I look forward to talking with you all again tomorrow.